What we're talking about is we want to be able to take this virtual machine and freeze its hard disk, be able to still make changes to it, but have the ability to revert back to this particular state at any time. So for example, if I copied some files to the operating system, or I installed some applications, I would be able to undo those changes and be able to return to the virtual machine in the state that it's in right at this particular minute. In order to do this, we need to create a snapshot of the virtual machine. So I'm going to click on the Snapshot menu, and I'm going to choose Take Snapshot. The Take Snapshot is going to take just a few minutes, and in the lower left corner of the screen, you'll see the Saving Virtual Machine state, and it'll tell you at what percentage complete that it's done. This is going to create a virtual machine snapshot. Now that the snapshot's complete, let's take a look at the host computer's file system. So what I'm looking right now is I'm looking at my host computer, and I'm going to drill down to the folder where the VM is stored. So I'm going to drill down to the VM folder and choose the John XP folder. And I want you to notice that a couple of new files have been created. There is a VMware snapshot file that's about 17 meg in size. There's also a couple of new VMDK files that have been created. vmprofessional-001.vmdk, and there's a log file associated with that. This is where the actual data that gets changed in the virtual machine from this point on is going to be stored is in this snapshot file. The original disk, the XP Professional Flat.vmdk, is now frozen. In other words, no changes are going to be written into this virtual disk. From this point on, they're all going to be written into the snapshot file. The snapshot file, if you notice, is only about a meg in size, and right now it's not storing very much data because not many changes have happened to the virtual disk. This snapshot file is going to grow as changes are added into the virtual disk. So we'll see an example of that right now when we return to the virtual machine. So now in my virtual machine, I'm going to make some changes to my virtual machine, and we're going to see what effect that has on the snapshot file. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a new icon on the desktop. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mount a CD-ROM to the virtual machine. So I'm just going to connect the Win ISO that I used earlier to build the virtual machine. And I'm going to browse to my CD-ROM drive. And I'm going to copy all of these files to my hard disk. And when the file's finished copying, we're going to see what effect that has on the snapshot. So through the magic of e-learning, the ISO image is now copied, and it's pretty large, as you can see. It's about 447 megabytes of space that have been added to this disk. So what we want to go look at now is we want to see what effect that had on the snapshot disk on the host computer. So now I'm back to the directory on my host computer where the VM itself is stored, and I can see that my XP Professional VMDK file is still the exact same size. That hasn't changed. But take a look at the snapshot file that was created. Now the snapshot file got added, and all the changes, all of the deltas, basically were added into this particular file. And its size has gotten considerably larger than it was before. So I can see now that my original disk is still the exact same, and all the changes that have been made have gone into this snapshot file, or this new VMDK file. So now back to my virtual machine running a VMware server. I've decided that I wanted to undo all the changes that I just did and revert my disk back to the state that it was in back when I took the snapshot. So, in fact, I'm even going to delete this icon off my desktop. And now I've decided I want to go back to the way everything was before I took the snapshot. I'm going to choose the Snapshot menu, and I'm going to choose Revert to Snapshot. And for a moment, my screen is going to go back to the white VMware Server console, and then my virtual machine will come back up. In the lower left-hand corner, what I'm going to see is a message that states restoring VM state and giving me a percentage complete. One of the things you'll notice immediately is that the icon that I deleted, shortcut to new SID, is back on my desktop, and the Word document that I created has now been removed. let's go see what happened to the directory that I added to my computer. Notice that the WinISO directory that was created has now been deleted. So I've returned my virtual machine to the state it was when I first took the snapshot. Finally, let's look at how to remove a snapshot. In order to remove a snapshot in VMware Server, I first have to shut down my virtual machine. So I'm going to power off my virtual machine. Then I'll go to the Snapshot menu and I'll choose Remove Snapshot. I'm going to get a message wanting to know if I want to remove the snapshot, so I'm going to go ahead and click Delete. And the snapshot's now been removed. I can verify this by looking on my operating system on the host computer, looking at the C drive, and in the directory where the virtual machine is created, and I can see that the VM snapshot file that was created earlier has now been removed from the virtual machine. All the changes that were in the VM snapshot file are then written back into the VMDK file. So any changes that were in the snapshot file have now been written into the virtual machine disk file.